Welcome to Padres Talking Padres. We have two Padres here today. Jay is not here today, but he is in town. So,
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I'm not going to be that guy to call him out. I don't want to be that
Yeah.
guy. I
Yeah.
just don't want to do it. It's not nice. It's not right. But I just noticed he is in town. I thought he wasn't getting back
Hmm.
till later tonight. But anyway, it's okay.
Hmm.
Jerry and I can handle the phones today. We got the Padres, who have the best record in baseball last time I checked.
Yes, sir.
And they've been playing. To be honest with you, since the Cubs series, I don't think they've been playing that great of baseball overall. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just me, but they're winning. So if you can win games that you're playing terrible, or not terrible, but you're not playing your best baseball, I think that's a good thing.
Well, there was a couple terrible games. Yeah, there
Yeah.
was two terrible games, and they lost them. Go back to what we always say, Jack. Hey, 3-3 on the road. Pains me to say that Jay was right. 3-3. We both said 4-2.
You think he just
Uh,
showed up for it?
but But the fact is just, again, the old adage: if you can play 500 ball on the road and win at home, then you're a playoff team. And but you're right. Look, they had a couple miserable outings. The starter ERA over until Vasquez pitched that 5 innings of 1 run ball yesterday was, I believe, it was something around 11 for the starters.
I believe. Well, you had Hart and Cease alone.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Cease
So
gave up 10 runs, right?
yeah.
Nine, 10
King,
runs.
I mean, King struggled. Cease was deplorable. He'll be the first one to probably tell you that. Hart couldn't
He
find the strike zone. I mean, he didn't even get out of the first inning. So I mean,
yeah.
you've had some pretty bad pitching, and now you've got the back end of the rotation going into the Colorado Rockies series, and then they've got the Cubs coming in again. So
But they won. They
uh,
won the Hart game. That was they won
oh,
that
it
game.
was brutal. No, but it's brutal, is what I'm
Yes,
saying.
yeah, it was because you start
Yeah,
up 3-0, and then the guy comes
yeah,
in. I go, geez, throw strikes. What is going
yeah.
on, man? Because it's nothing to me. If a guy's getting shelled, he's getting shelled.
Right.
But when you're just walking guys, and I'm like going, it's so boring to watch, and it's so
Yeah.
frustrating to watch. But they're human. It's like Cease obviously didn't have it. He just didn't. He didn't have it. He didn't have
Yeah.
it. And he does that. I mean, not to that. I don't think I've ever. I think it's the
Oh no,
second
it's
time.
terrible. Yeah.
I think it's the second time he's had that bad a game in his
Right.
career. I mean, normally he'll have a bad inning or something like that, but
Right.
he just you could tell it's like this is crazy. His ball's just floating up there.
Well, you pointed it out, and I've kind of put it off to the side last year because you were bringing it up, but you can't help but notice that he definitely does let his struggles show outwardly,
Yeah,
facial inspections, body, whatever you want to call it. Whereas you 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 look at King, and he was frustrated for a different reason because the umpire was totally jobbing him. I mean,
yeah.
really bad. It was not good. And so the fact of the matter is, though, is King held a better face
Yeah,
than Cease. Cease
he
was,
he, he
but
waited
Cease
till
was upset at himself, and I get that. I mean, if you're an athlete and you're a premier athlete like him, I can't even imagine. But when you're not doing what you think you should be able to do with your eyes closed, it's got to be frustrating. I'll give him credit though. Schilt had no choice. Like, I can't keep burning my bullpen. I can only use guys like Alex Jacob and Will Cruz before he got sent down and replaced. Gillespie. I can't keep using these guys every night. Good old team play. I don't care. You've given up 9 runs. I need you to go out for another inning.
yeah.
It's this is when you find the true heart of champions, because it's not about my stats. It's
No,
about, no, the team needs
and
me to
he
go out
went
there
and he went right back
and go
out
out
there. I
there.
mean,
And he
give
did a
him
good
credit.
job for what it's worth for that one more inning. But at least he got in the
I think
third.
with his frustration too, it's number one. He's a top of the line pitcher, and
Yes.
he is a top. I mean, he's one of the top 10, 15 pitchers in baseball, without question. He wants to. He's a team player, like you said. He came back out there, and even though he knew he didn't have it. He said, "Yeah, I'll give you another inning. I'll give you
Yeah.
another inning, save the team," which is a team player, but also he's playing for a contract.
Yeah.
He's looking for that big payday, and I think he's frustrated with himself too. That's three things. It's like I think the contract is probably the last thing he's thinking about. But
right. No,
still,
well,
it's got to be
yeah.
it's got to be back in his mind. Like, man, I got to pitch better than this.
When you're a guy like Cease, you're going to get paid. So I mean, he could fall on his face. But yes, first place does feel good, and one of the things that I hope that we're not getting into this kind of a trend with San Diego fans. I think I've told you I've got a lot of friends that I talk to about Padre baseball, and to the most part, they're kind of with me like, hey, they're 10-3. But man, if you go on the internet, holy crap, you think that the Padres were 2-20. We got to get rid of this guy. We got to trade this guy. You got to bring this guy up and everything. And it's like, come on, folks. We're 10-3 with what we have. Let's give it some time. I'm not stuck in the mud with players and who should be and everything. And that. I'm not here to defend guys like Jason Hayward or Gurriel or Iglesias or whoever it might be. I'll let time tell me whether or not, in my opinion, which doesn't need diddly squat to Mike Schild, who should be on the team and who shouldn't. I think we got tested yesterday and we passed. It was an ugly 2-1 win. You got that many hits was encouraging, but the fact is, when you're missing Merrill, when you're missing Tatis, and when you're missing Cronenworth, I think those guys probably account for about half of our RBIs to date. So it's hard to get somebody to drive them in because you had a lot of hits. Bogarts had hits, Hayward had hits. Yeah. So 10-3 feels really good, and yet we hear constant complaining about this one guy, that one guy.
I think what it could be. I think every team has that. Every fan base has that guy on their team that they just don't like. They just they just can't warm up to him. He doesn't perform, and it's just like it's every year. There's a guy like last year was probably Tyler Wade, and there's just a guy. There's a guy that people love, and you're like going, okay, why and Eric Owens, who everyone just I loved Eric Owens, but it's like, oh my God, this guy is and he was an average player. He wasn't going to carry the team to the playoffs, but people loved him. And then you got other players. People go, I just hate this guy. Can't stand him. Can't stand him.
I don't feel like the San Diego fans have ever warmed up to the fact of Jason Hayward and Yuri Gurriel. I just don't. I don't think they've ever been given a fair shake ever. I mean, from the get-go, they have not been given that.
My issue is I would be okay with one of them. But I go, when you've got two, and I think with Padre fans too, is especially ones on social media, because if you're on Twitter, Dodger fans are just ruthless. I mean, they're just da 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 da. We don't have a ring. You don't have this. And like I said, I don't care anymore. I'm 62 years old. You don't have a ring either. You didn't win anything. You just picked a team that wins. That's just my approach. But I think the younger fans are just like, they just get frustrated because they want to beat the Dodgers so bad. And the Dodgers loaded up this offseason. Yeah. But they're showing they have some, they're not 100%. Their defense is terrible. Their offense has a lot of holes in it. So if Ohtani's not hitting and Betts is not hitting, Freeman's coming back, I believe, tomorrow, which will help them. And Teoscar Hernandez, God, I wish we could have got him. But, is what it is. But I think that could be a two. People are just getting frustrated, and you get used to winning. You get used to winning, and you don't want to lose again.
Well, I think there's a little bit of that, but again, I agree with you because if you're a longtime Padre fan like us, I mean, the best example I have is Tim Flannery. Why did everybody love Tim Flannery? I don't know. I loved him, but to your point, he's a 230, 240, but okay, that's great. He hustled. And that's an endearing quality. But I don't see Hayward out there lagging around. I don't see Gurriel not running to first base or trying to make plays. It's just human nature. And you're right. There's always one person on the team that everybody loves, no matter what they do. And then there's one person on the team or two that they don't like because, oh my gosh, he's got 20 at bats and he only has 2 hits. Oh my gosh, let's just, ship
Well,
this
look at
guy to China. I mean,
you
what's he
can
doing on this team?
Cronenworth is probably in the middle. You have half the fan base loves him, half the fan base goes he's overpaid, which is crazy. And by today's standards, he is not. I mean, Vladimir Guerrero got $500 million.
Yeah.
He ain't worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good player, but there's no way I give that guy $500 million. I just don't. But the Cronenworth people, oh, you got to get rid of him. He's overrated. Da, 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 da. And it just goes back and forth. It's just, but I lost my train of thought. But no, I like I said, to me, I like them. I just and the Padres have made a lot of trades recently, and again, I wouldn't go back and trade this. So a lot of people say I would not do that. Well, yes, you would. Yeah. Everyone was excited when we got Sosa. What hurt the team is that Fernando Valenzuela wasn't ready to come back, and then he got suspended for PEDs.
If he comes, Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yeah, I said Fernando Tatis. Well, his dad probably helped him out. But anyway, he probably.
Oh, no, you said Valenzuela. So.
Oh, Fernando Valenzuela. Did I really say that?
You've been talking about the Dodgers way too much on this Padres show.
Man, Fernando Valenzuela. Well, he's hold on. Former Padre. Former Padre. But Fernando Tatis Jr., remember, he was supposed to come back.
Yeah.
When they may not make that trade for Soto if they knew Fernando wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
So, again, I make the trade. I mean, I know getting rid of Woods and Abrams was but you got Soto. And it also, I keep telling people, I said, it built a fan base. You have a fan base now because Soto brought, excitement to the team. With Fernando out all year long.
Yeah.
They said Fernando. Yeah, Fernando out all year long. Now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I think you should just say Tatis. But with Tatis out all year long, look at that stadium. It is packed. It is packed. It's a sellout every night. I never would have thought I would see the day that the Padres had sellouts you could see on the weekends or giveaways. And even when they're winning a good amount, but that thing is packed, and it's not cheap to go to those games.
Yeah. Well, you bring up some good points. That I think the big one is like I'm just not really good or maybe not smart enough to judge trades on the merit right at the moment. James Woods had some flashes, and he may end up being a stud. I don't know that. It's early on in the process, and Mackenzie Gore's been pitching, the same way he did when he was here, where he's awesome one game and then the next one he's not. So you just can't always get it right. I mean, Preller may be smart, but he's not the only smart GM that's out there and everything. So, I hear about the David Peralta, and I'm sorry,
well, let's say Chip Rock says the Gurriel experiment is pointless when you have David Peralta.
We don't have David Peralta.
Yeah. Well, he's out there. I think he's saying loved by the team, still out there. DFA Yulia, whatever his name, Gurriel now. AJ, call the train and let us do this. Now, I had a theory about Peralta. It shocks me that nobody has picked him up. I don't really want to say this because I have no. Did he do something and he's waiting? I don't know how long it takes to get out of your system. Did he? Because it shocks me that he hasn't signed with anybody.
Well, it doesn't mean because he's 37, 38 years old, and the same way you could say the same thing with Rizzo and a few other guys that they just get to that point where people say, "Do I really need that?" Now, the David Peralta thing, I think, is quite simple. You have Hayward. That's your Peralta this year. Like it or not, that's the switch off because they don't need another left-handed outfielder. They don't,
if you had your choice right now, you have to pick one of them, Peralta or Hayward. Who do you take?
I take Hayward still. I've still got another month or so before I judge it otherwise. Plays a pretty solid defense. Peralta is not a good defender.
I know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, so this is a regular, so the big thing last year is that And the difference is, and this is where I will agree with people. Last year, we needed Peralta and Solano to fill in a backfill. The difference this year is Hayward's our left fielder for all rights. That's a pretty decent difference because one is, hey, give me some at bats every once in a while, pinch hit every once in a while. The other one is, hey, for the most part, you're going to play 5 out of every 7 games because we're going to face more right-handers than left-handers. That's the difference to me. The right-handed portion of that, unfortunately, is Lockridge. And again, he got a lot of like, oh, yeah, he made the team. Good for him. He's a young guy and everything. Well, he's not hitting any better than Hayward. So, the old, if you're going to throw out the baby with the bathwater, then you're going to have a twosome there because you're going to have,
I would say
have Lockridge and Hayward go out together. And now let's start over. And again, 10-3, folks, 10-3. With what we've got.
I would say with Lockridge, though, he covers more ground than Hayward.
Well, I tell you what, I'm not an expert, but he is faster. But boy, he took some circular routes the other night playing center field. I mean, and I thought there was at least 2 of them in my memory, and maybe more, maybe less, but there was 2 of them that I was like, if Jackson Merrill was out there, those would have been caught. There's no doubt in my mind. And part of it, he's not a center fielder necessarily, but again, this is a guy that's been up for a cup of coffee last year, and now he's been with the team since the beginning. I'm not seeing anything special out of him either. But I keep going back to the premise. It's like, you know what? These are kind of bench guys. Maybe the fault here is with Preller, maybe not. And I will agree with the Padre fans out there. He didn't address the left field permanent position as well as I would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to have seen something a little bit more permanent. Now, whether or not that's Oscar Gonzalez, I don't know. Again, the kids, guys come up. He's been up before. If he was that good, he'd have been up here a long time. Maybe he's learned a little bit more going down to AAA again.
Well, he had a good year in, I think it was 2022. I mean, he had a really good year. Then he got hurt. And then he was out most of 2023. I'm trying to remember. I looked it up, and then he was off and on in 2024. I don't know. The dude, when he hits the ball all spring, he was hitting the ball hard. I mean, his velocity was like 106 miles, 107 miles. So I hope that one of him or Lockridge can take off, kind of like. I'm not expecting Merrill type stats. I'm not crazy here. I don't think anybody's going to do what Merrill did. But if you can come up and do a little bit of what Profar did in left field, I think that's a big plus. I mean, I think left field's the biggest hole right now. And catcher, whatever we get from catcher, I'm happy with because
I've been happy with what we've gotten out of catchers to this point. I mean, defensively and offensively, it's not like they're null and void. I'm not going to sit here and brag like they're hitting, a ton. But I got to say right now, and it's early, so I'm not going to judge Lockridge any different than Hayward or Gurriel or Iglesias for that matter. It's early. They've got 15, 20 at-bats apiece. That's and not what I would call regular playing time, which is very important for guys to be able to get that. But right now, I think Lockridge is just maybe a glorified Tyler Wade. He can play some positions. He's fast. He's a good pinch runner. But I don't see anything there that I'm just like, oh, he needs to play more often.
I say my biggest complaint with Lockridge is sometimes he seems like he's swinging for the fence. You're not a home run hitter. Just he hit a ball to second base and almost beat it out.
Yeah,
Grandma, it's almost like the Damian Jackson. I don't know if you remember Damian Jackson.
Of course I do.
Was so fast, but yet when you hit a home run, it'd be like, oh no, next 3 weeks he's going to be swinging for the fence.
I don't think Lockridge has even got that kind of power, bud.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either. But he's swinging.
I think he's just a singles hitter, and
yeah,
again, as a regular, if he's going to be even the platoon in left field, at least, hey, I know Hayward hasn't shown it yet, but we know he's got pop. We know he can hit the ball. He had a couple of shots the other day that were very well hit, just get caught. And so I try to always remember that as I'm, judging as we go along, how hard somebody hits it. Because otherwise, look at Luis Ariz. I remember when he had no hits and his expected average was 286. That and I'm not big on those stats, but it basically says And, in any other shape or form, he would be a 286 hitter, not over 14. That
Right.
means he's hitting the ball hard, but he's hitting it right at somebody.
And his first strikeout, he actually got hit by the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, hey, I'm not trying to defend these guys to the nth degree. I'm just saying, let's put a little patience out there, because otherwise, everybody you look at is, oh, well, he's under 200. We need to DFA that guy. We need to go get this guy. And what's to say that if Connor Joe or now Gonzalez comes up and they're going to do a better job? Because we've talked about it before. If you get rid of these guys, they're gone. You're not getting them back. So, and then what happens if those minor leaguers that were supposed to be good when you brought them up don't perform? Now what do you do?
You really have to. You have to, like I said. I with Merrill out. The last thing you want is Merrill out of the lineup. But I'm hoping that Lockridge or, like I said, Gonzalez plays well and
oh yeah, give me a week. Just give us a week. Yeah.
I mean,
But it's definitely going to take away from our lineup. There's look, all teams go through it. You mentioned Freddie Freeman for the Dodgers. All teams go through it. And it's time for Schilt's been saying it. Time for other guys to step up. You look at guys that have been banged around by the media and banged around by the Padre fans. Xander Bogaerts is over 300 now. Is he going to hit the power that he used to? No, he's not in Boston anymore. I never expected Bogaerts to come over and hit 35 home runs.
First year he had 20 plus home runs. So
which is where I would expect him to be, about 20 something home run. That's about it.
And he had been hitting into some bad luck too. He's like Sheets. He hits the ball really hard. That's somebody.
Yeah. And look at Gavin Sheets, the darling of the team, the first homestand. He hasn't done much since then. It's going to happen. It's baseball. Baseball goes in streaks. You feel
baseball,
it.
Ray.
You go to 6 or 7 game streaks, 10 game streaks, and then all of a sudden it's another guy, and you forget that, oh wow, this guy's gone, hasn't had a hit since last Tuesday. Oh, wait a minute, he was the guy that was carrying us for a week there. So Manny hasn't been Manny yet, and we know history tells us Manny is a huge streak hitter. Huge. Like when this guy gets on a home run, it's like 7 and 12 games all of a sudden. And then, the power kind of goes away a little bit, the RBIs. We've been setting him up enough, but, Manny, I think, is really bought into the being patient. He's not going to swing at bad pitches until he does.
He did. What day was that? It's like, oh my god, we had bases
Tuesday.
Loaded.
He had 3 pitches and none of them were within 2 feet.
They weren't even. Yeah, I go, come on, Manny.
Yeah. It was kind of unmanny like. You see it every once in a while from everybody. I mean, Tatis, before he got hurt, went up there and swung at the first pitch in a situation where you're like, oh man, you've been so patient waiting for that good pitch, and you just swung at something you could hit. And look, I don't compare. I played softball, and that's been eons ago. But even with that, I remember kicking myself so many times going back to the dugout. I go, why did I swing at that first pitch? That was a horrible pitch. Why didn't I wait for the pitch that I like? It's human nature, though. Sometimes you get in a situation, your focus isn't 100% there, and you just swing at something you can hit. And that's not good for baseball, or for your average, or for your results,
or for the team,
sometimes. Yeah, be selfless, be willing to take the walk.
But going back to last week, you said you would trade for a starting pitcher. I'm really into that right now. I think we could use another starter.
Well, I'm not surprised, but yet when Hart had the problems that he had, and this is not a gut reaction, this is more of there seemed to be a tussle about who was going to be the 5th starter from the very beginning, and I'm not sure anybody in spring training really separated themselves between Hart and Kolek and Waldron. It's just my gut feel that there really wasn't any clear separation, and they went with the lefty. They just said, you know what, Waldron's hurt. Kolek's just coming back into starting. He hasn't done it for a year. Let's put him down there, and let's start with Hart. I was almost expecting Kolek to be called up for the next start. It doesn't surprise me that he wasn't, but it wouldn't have been a surprise if he did. And that may be, that what he's gonna. We got Pavetta, we got, and
And
then
then
we
he's
got
next.
Hart, right? Is that right? Yeah,
Hearts on Saturday.
yeah, and then King. I hope it doesn't come out that way, but I wouldn't be surprised if Hart has a rough outing on Saturday that they don't make that move and say, hey, let's
Well,
go ahead and get there.
normally I'd say he's playing against the Rockies, don't have to worry. But again, the Padres are playing the Rockies, so we have to worry.
Well,
Even though
they don't have
Charlie
Blackmon.
Blackman's not on the team anymore. That guy.
Well, look, there's one thing about the Colorado teams that you almost always know. They're always going to have good hitting. They live off their farm system, obviously, except for Chris Bryant. They basically live off of that farm system, and they bring up some. They brought up Zach Veen, supposed to monster, in the minors. We'll see how that translates.
They're pitching for the most part. Starting pitching is pitched pretty well.
They've got a couple. We're going to see Marquez on Friday, and they've always had Freeland, who's given the Padres a little bit of nastiness as through the years. But yeah, I mean, look, let's not sugarcoat it. We should still beat them. We should beat them handily, and we'll see. I mean, again, if we sweep them, it's not like the curse is over. If we get swept, then the curse is still there.
It's just one of those things. I like in the group chat. I said, because we're what 3 and are we 2 and 3 without Merrill or 3 and 4 without Merrill? I can't remember.
We've only played 3 games without Merrill.
So we're 2. I couldn't remember if he played that last Cup. He did play in the last Cubs game. That's when he got hurt. But yeah, we're 2 and 3 without Merrill. So that's not bad.
No, we're 2 and 1.
2 and 1. What did I say? 2.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 I meant to say 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
I'm tired. You know who I blame for?
Okay, Valenzuela. Yeah.
But yeah, that's not bad. So if you could take even 2, hopefully you could sweep the Rockies.
Yeah.
What if you take 2 out of 3? And who's after that? Who do we play after that?
Cubs. Yeah, we finished the Cubs already, which that's I don't know. The people who do the Major League Baseball have been doing it for years. They do it by hand. There's no algorithms or anything like that. They just literally sit down and put them all on the board. I'd love to have that job. I did it for my little league at one point. But yeah, this whole you get done with somebody at a certain time of the year, you kind of like, I don't know. It'd just be nice as a little bit more organized where you met one team here and one. And of course, a lot of people are bemoaning the fact that the Padres don't even play the Dodgers until June. And I'm like, I'd rather have it that way. I'd rather you play your non-divisional interleague at the beginning and save all that stuff for when you've got your feet under you and all that. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Cubs are a really good team. I was very impressed by them. I know we were not at our best. We'll see how it is without having to play in 30-degree weather, because I think that had an effect on everybody, including the Cubs. Somebody was talking about it. It's like, oh, the Cubs are used to it. And it's like, no, the Cubs have guys from California and Florida and the Dominican Republic too. They're not any more used to it than we are. So,
well, I saw on Twitter they said, "Where are the Cub fans?" Yeah. This is this week. That wasn't against Padres. It looked like there was not a lot of. It was so cold they didn't show up. I'm like going,
yeah.
Well, the fans should be used to that kind of weather. I mean, in Chicago, the weather. It's not like San Diego.
Well, it's a hard draw. You got to remember, though, Jack. It's the beginning of the season, so I mean, don't get me wrong. I texted you and Jay the other day and talking about the Mets game, and they were empty seats all over the place. But again, Jay, who was just happened to be working in New York at that time, said, "Hey, it's like 25 degrees outside." So there's actually a legitimate reason. And me and you have gone to holiday bowls back in here in San Diego, where you're out there with 4 layers and you're like, I think I'm having fun, but I'm freezing right now.
Living on the East Coast for 20 plus years, I don't think I would. I probably could go there in shorts and a t-shirt now. Just saying, because the weather was like 60 degrees. I mean, it did get cold at the stadium because Mission Valley, where it's at, and.
That was in December too, back then. We're talking about the holiday bowl, but I wear shorts every day, so I don't.
You had to wait for the snow plows to go through and to get to the parking lot, but I mean, again, we're 10-3. It just people get, like I said, Vasquez. I mean, a lot of people don't like him. I go, he's got good stuff. I go, what? I
Yeah.
go, let him develop. It takes time for pitchers, and
Yeah. Well, he's
you know,
serviceable, and he's got good stuff. But just like any pitcher or any player, they're trying, folks. Like, sometimes it's like, oh, throw strikes. And it's like, you think he's not trying to throw strikes? I mean, you think he's not.
sometimes I wonder if they're trying to throw strikes. It's like,
Well,
oh my
so
god.
CB proved that was a shining example of what happens when you're fighting your control. You're walking guys, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to throw strikes. And they were lighting him up. Why? Because he's throwing a pedestrian fastball up there just to try to not, walk anybody. And he just got hammered. So big league hitters just love it when you're just laying down a 90-mile-an-hour fastball down the middle. I mean, like
Well,
like
his
you were
ball,
saying, Jack, it was BP. I mean,
yeah, his ball wasn't moving at all. I said, man, this
exactly,
guy's got
because he's
nothing.
because he's trying to throw strikes, and so there's just days like that. I mean,
And
this is
it
just
wasn't one
gonna
of
be
those things
days.
too where King, you could say, okay, the umpire's just not giving him the calls. Because I think King's to
Oh,
give the
King's
umpire,
problem was the umpire. It was
yeah,
the umpire.
yeah. But I'm saying what to give his ball moves so much
Yeah,
that sometimes maybe they struggle with it. But with Cease, he was just all over the place, and you can tell, like I said, you can tell when he's lost. He's lost
yeah,
his. Okay, I'm ready to punch someone in the face. I
yeah,
mean, type of thing. I mean, I don't think he's a violent person, but I'm just saying you could tell that he just gets to a point where he's like, I can't do this anymore.
yeah.
I've lost my focus, and again, that's just who he is, and I don't think he's ever going to change. So
I don't want him to. That and that's fine. It's served him well up to this point. Who are we to argue about a guy who's finished in the top 10 of Cy Young a couple of times? I mean, this is no new pitcher. He's a veteran. I expect him to come out and be a strong, put a strong start out there again. It's not the first time he's struggled. I mean, we
no,
had him last year, and he had fits with it every once in a while, and as do every pitcher. I mean, I'll tell you, even the most lights out pitcher in the world in 35 starts or however many they get, they're going to have a couple of bombs, and it's just going to happen. So, um, you know, Cease is an amateur. Henry Cavill. Oh, is that the Superman guy?
it's
He
Superman.
needs
Yeah.
the beard for the Nationals coming up. Yeah.
I don't know if he's as pretty as Henry is, but
Yeah. I don't know. You're out of my range now there, Eric. You've lost me. I don't do the movie thing a whole lot. So
well, a lot of people thought he could be the new James Bond.
oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Well, I mean,
So the other positive about this team that we kind of, I don't know if we've ever taken it for granted, Jack, because we talk about it a lot, but this bullpen is solid. I mean, just solid. And when you hear Craig Counsell and Mark Kotze both say, yeah, we knew we needed to get to the starter because, man, once you get in that bullpen, it's lights out. They've got one of the best bullpens in the major leagues.
well,
I don't think
Suarez
there's.
hasn't given up a hit.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I can say this without any problem. They are the best bullpen from top to bottom. This is the best bullpen in baseball. It's just so lights out that you're going to have to remind me, Eric, who is the 98 bullpen? Obviously, Hoffy, but I'm a little short-sighted on trying to remember who the guys were. I don't doubt you any because that 98 team, I've always made the argument that the 98 team was the strongest Padre team ever
Oh yeah,
until last year.
yeah.
Last year,
Last year
I
was the
thought
better
we
team, but
actually it would have been it'd have been a fight, which one was better. Because man, I mean, come on, how you had Caminiti, you had Gwynn, you had Steve Finley, and Greg Vaughn. I mean, it just went on and on and
and
on.
Ricky
And Ricky,
and Ricky.
yeah, but this bullpen it's special, and the stats are showing it. But just I got to say, as a Padre fan, it gets to the sixth inning. I'd love to have more than a one-run lead, but I feel pretty comfortable. And I know that it's not going to hold all year. They're going to blow a few. There's going to be a here or there where somebody gives up something, That's going to happen. I mean, come on, you can't have a 0.00 ERA for 162 games. But the confidence that I know Schilt has when he brings those guys in is got to be way up there. And somebody was talking about the Vasquez decision and why he didn't go out for the 6th, and I thought, well, how are you questioning that? Well, because he only threw 61 pitches. Again, with this bullpen and knowing that you have Thursday off, why would you not? They had not pitched the day before. You're pitching them Wednesday, and they're going to have today off. Well, why would you not use them, right? I didn't understand that. There's times where you want Vasquez to throw another inning. Somebody mentioned on the radio, it's like, yeah, I totally agreed with Schilt on this, because if it was 5-1, then I'll let Vasquez go out again, because you want to build him up. You want to, give him a chance. But with a 1-run lead and knowing those circumstances I just covered were there, why would you not bring these guys in now?
I have the 98 bullpen.
Okay.
You got Brian Boehringer, he was a
serviceable
guy.
Yeah, serviceable.
You got Joey Hamlin was a starter. Andy Ashby was a starter. Of course, Kevin Brown was a starter.
Yeah.
Trevor Hoffman, Sterling Hitchcock was a starter.
Yeah.
You got Trevor Hoffman in the bullpen. Mark Kroon, Mark Langston, I think he was a starter / bullpen guy. Dan Maselli, Randy Myers, who didn't really pitch because he got hurt, right?
Well, Maselli was very good. Yeah,
Maselli was really good.
Yeah.
Scott Sanders was, I think, bullpen and starter.
He was bullpen. Yeah.
Stan Spencer, Donnie Wall, who had a really good year.
I think he was on his way to. Didn't Donnie Wall kind of replace Hoffman when he left after?
He might have. He might. Or
no, he went to Atlanta, didn't he?
No,
didn't he get him from Atlanta?
No, it was Bell that did it. What replaced him?
Okay. Yeah. Well, Eric, I'm going to say that this bullpen is better than that one. Yeah, I would take this bullpen in a heartbeat.
Well, Adams, like you said, you always say he's money, and he can struggle, and then he comes back and he strikes the guy out.
Yeah. I mean, you start doing the side by side, right? So let's just keep it simple. Hoffman over anybody. I don't care who it is, right? Best reliever at all time. Him and Mariano Rivera. I don't think it's even close. And that's just everybody thinks that, But now you start getting the secondary, and I will argue that Adam and Estrada could easily be stoppers on any other team.
Oh yeah,
easily. So, 3 stoppers, and again, you mentioned Maselli. Maselli was good that year. I remember that. But yeah, I'll take 3, and then we're not even talking about getting to Morejon, who's been lights out.
Another guy Padre fans don't like.
Yeah, I don't get it. I think part of his was just because he was always getting hurt, and people tend to just kind of frown after a guy gets hurt like a second or third time. Look at Pomeranz. Love Pomeranz. Signed him to that long-term contract. That's 3 or 4 year contract.
4-year contract.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever got combined with all those 4 years, maybe a half a season out of him.
And I thought, I'll be honest with you, when they made that, I said that's a great signing.
Oh, I know it. That's what I'm saying. I mean, the guy was lights out.
But he got hurt and couldn't pitch. And I think that's what frustrated people. But,
and that's frustration sometimes leads to not liking somebody because
it's like when the Padres
hurt again. Yeah.
When the Padres traded for Randy Myers, and then, of course, he couldn't pitch. I go, yeah, he was coming off where he was the fireman of the year. Well, I think he was with, I forget what team he was with. And we picked him up to block the Braves. And the Astros were picking him up. It was strategic. I mean, he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah. Who
knows? I mean, but he got hurt, and what are you going to do?
Well, that's a lot of baseball, the health, right? So now, here we are. It's not our fault, but we talked about it last time about how the health of a team is sometimes more important than how the guys are performing. If you've got the regulars out there on a regular basis, it's easier to get some continuity. The lineup doesn't have to be fidgeted with and everything. Let's just hope that Fernando and Jake come back tomorrow night. I heard they're on ramp to get there, but let's as one guy said on the radio, I'll see when I see it, I'll believe it.
Yeah, with Cronenworth, it's okay. I can believe it, but with Tatis, I gotta wait. I mean, I hope like everything they're saying is true, but until he steps on the field and plays the whole game,
Yeah.
I'm not celebrating because I remember last year.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he'll be out a day or two as he's working through something. And then he was out
And
for
then
what?
10 L, and
Yeah,
then well, now it's going to be 3 months. Yeah.
yeah, and it's
So,
like,
gut check. Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm hoping it's just, you can get a twinge or something like that, and I think they did the right thing. We were getting blown out, so why would you? There's no reason to play. Uh,
And here's where I hope, because again, we're not in the clubhouse. We're not that kind of a show, folks. In case you haven't noticed, we don't have any insight into the clubhouse. We don't get to do player interviews and things like that. But here's my take of what I hope it is. I think it's a sign of maturity from Tatis that probably talked to Shilton and said it doesn't feel good. Maybe I should just take some time off rather than going out there game in game out until the point where it becomes a problem. I really hope that's what it is. It's more of a mature move that says, you know what, I I, I want to play, but I don't want to hurt the team, and my health long term is more important to this team than me being out there to play one more game before we get a break. Now you get Wednesday off, Thursday off, pretty much the whole day Friday until you go to. So you're getting 72 hours to get better is what I'm going at. And I think that's because Schilt said that in an emergency he could have played. So I think this is a combination of maturity from Tatis and or Schilt being the manager he is. It says it's a long season. They said that with Merrill anyway. Probably the time off would have been close to what they would have done without putting him on the IL, but this way they don't have to do with the nifty roster spot. So it's the old adage, if it's going to be 6 or 7 days, then just go ahead and put them on the 10-day and get somebody up, because 6 or 7 games can make a big difference if you're playing shorthanded and you get that one game, which they were at, was it yesterday? Oh, no, when they got hurt, where they were down to their backup catcher. That was it. That's the only person they had. And, that's not a good thing to get into when you're sitting there with a game in front of you and you want to win that game. And now I have no pinch hitters available. If I get if they bring in a lefty and I got a lefty hitting, I gotta let him struggle. Maybe So I think it's a good thing. It's early. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, there's no reason like Eric says he agrees. It's early, rest to play. Rest to play later. I mean, that's the key. Is you don't want to again if it was like 10 days left in the season and you're fighting for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Put them out there. Just put them out there because you got to make the playoffs. That's the whole idea of playing the game. But
and Eric brings up a good point. I don't think it's the major point of it is, but yeah, in the meantime, you bring up a minor leaguer that you're sitting on the fence on, or you feel like is close anyway. In this case, Gonzalez, and okay, bring him up, give him a cup of coffee. These cups of coffees are encouraging. Number one, for that player. Number two, does give you the organization to see him against like talent, so to speak. See how he performs, how he handles himself. And then, they go back down and maybe they've got a little bit more vim and vigor in them it's like, hey, I really like that food up there. And I like the travel arrangements a lot better. And hey, they got a nice clubhouse with all these amenities. You know what? I kind of like
to be fair, his first 2 games were in Oakland.
Yeah.
Not Oakland, Sacramento, where it's like, I'm sorry, that I still can't believe Major League Baseball allowed that. Is going to allow that for 3 years, and they haven't even started building. They haven't even started building the stadium in Las Vegas.
Well, I haven't got approval yet either. So,
no.
I think what's again, I feel like sometimes I'm stealing thunder from the local radio stations, but I try to listen and read and look and get different opinions. But what's really the shame of it is that now that we've played them, that's a team that I could root for. And I'm not an Oakland fan, but I mean, just you look at the young and the caliber player they had, the Soderstrom and Rooker and Butler, and they've got some good young players over there.
Yeah.
And the shame of it is they can't even fill a stadium that fits 13,000 people. Why? Well, because they're in Sacramento. You've got a team up there that has said, we don't want Sacramento anywhere. We're not associated with them. We're just using their stadium.
Yeah,
So if you're
that's
from Sacramento, you're like, well, screw you, number one. And
sounds like a former team that used to play in San
yeah,
Diego.
no, I think him and Dean Spanos are related. So
I mean, it's just the same
and-
kind of mentality.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
you want the fans to, anyway.
yeah. But let's disenfranchise this team, this place where we're going to play for 3 years minimum. Let's just disenfranchise them, And I'm just
Well,
thinking, gosh, your
it
marketing
also
people have got to be either really stupid or they're given orders from somebody that's really stupid. Yeah, one or the other.
well, also too, the visiting teams get hurt because you visiting. I don't know the amount, but like get 30% of the ticket sales or whatever it is. They get a take of what
Yeah.
because the home team doesn't get 100% of it. So
Right.
So if you got 10,000 fans in the damn stadium, 8,000 fans in a stadium, that's not worth your plane fare going in there,
Yeah.
and the hotel and everything else you're doing for those games. It's like, okay,
It's just a terrible situation, Jack. I mean, you're right. I mean, I can't believe it. MLB got it. I can't believe it, but I believe it because their commissioner is just horrible.
Well,
And
there's plenty of major league ballparks that are. I mean, there's plenty of ballparks in America that are big enough that could support, a team. They should have said, no, you got to move to Portland or you got to move to for 3 years. You can't go to play in a minor league ballpark. We're not going to allow it. Now, I get the Tampa Bay Rays had to do it because their stadium got destroyed.
yeah,
their roof is gone. I get
that's
that.
just it's an unfortunate situation there.
Yeah.
But having said that, it's been said by people who have been to both of them says, you know what, I'd rather play at the Yankees spring training facility than this stadium in a heartbeat. It's modern. It's even though it's a spring training facility, it's better than this minor league park that we're going to. And I feel for the people who are, the people who put the money, the Sacramento, I don't know who did, but they fixed it up the best they could. But the clubhouse is still out in the outfield, and it looks bad. But to your point, the Tampa was a forced one. It's an unfortunate situation there. I still don't understand. I was telling my wife this the other day. Why couldn't they just tear off the remnants of the roof and just play there? Okay, we're going to get rain, but we're playing in Tampa anyway. So why would you have not just gone ahead and taken off the roof? And
Well, I think the roof is gone. I mean, it's just the metal.
no, that's what I'm saying.
Frame.
So why not just clean it up and then play there?
Well, they want to put another roof on there.
But in the interim, you could do that in the off season,
Well, you can't. It would be too expensive. You're saying take the frame off?
You don't have to even take the frame off. Just make sure it's sound and just don't put the.
No, that's what I thought you were saying. Take the frame off. Okay, yeah.
No,
the roof
I'm just saying
itself
clean up what's left over and be able to use it. But again, I'm Padre baseball. I just don't understand how MLB has gone through this.
It's stupid. But Eric said, "Did you see the crowds in Detroit when they're playing the Yankees?"
It was 20 degrees.
Yeah, and
it snowed one of the games.
Yeah, one of the things people were. I was listening to MLB Network. They said, "Why would they schedule those games in New York? I mean, at night.
Yeah,
those should all be day games." But that's where the schedule. I thought they used to say, "Okay, let's in April, first 2 weeks in April, let's put the games where it's warm."
They've never done that, Jack. We've been screaming for the same thing for years. They've never done that. They don't listen to logic because it's unfair. Then everybody always has to open up on the West Coast and blah blah blah.
It's better. Baseball. Again, it's hard. It's hard to hit a baseball when it's cold.
It's a warm weather game, But here's the deal with me, because actually, when you mentioned the night game, I believe it was Cleveland that rescheduled their games to the daytime because it was so cold. One of the teams, I know it was one of the American League teams.
Maybe it was Cleveland.
But it was one of the teams. They rescheduled the whole homestand and just said we're going to play them all during the day because it's just too cold. But yeah, I mean it's unfortunate. I'm actually shocked that we haven't had a snow out yet. I know it snowed in that one game, but yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. But then again, this is all a byproduct of greed. Back in our day, Opening day wasn't until the first week and sometimes the second week of April, you know, and now we've crawled into where we start the season the last week of March. What do you think's going to happen? You're
Well,
going to have bad weather, you know.
well, the problem is that they got so many playoff teams now.
Well, that's the greed part because now
Yeah.
they've had to extend it, and so they don't want to go all the way till November. Well, guess what? Now you are going to November,
Which is even worse than playing in
Yeah.
March because it's cold. But but the problem is if you didn't have extra playoff teams, you would just have the same teams with the most money in the playoffs. And
you know, Eric, you bring up some good points here. Double headers.
I've always loved double headers.
I've been an advocate of scheduling double headers. I think if every team had 3 or 4 double headers every year, if you just made it make sense so that nobody gets screwed out of it, right? You don't want to have a double header when you've played 12 games in a row. I think that's wrong, you know. But again, I talked to you about football. You know, why does the team, you know, playing Thursday, why don't they just schedule everybody for a Thursday game and give them the next week off, and that way everybody gets the same thing, right? Same thing with baseball. Why, if you made every team say you're going to have 4 double headers this year, well, right there you almost shave a week off of the schedule. So yeah.
I'm old enough to remember when double headers were a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the day-night doubleheader, which they could easily do. They could easily schedule those, and they still make their money. I'm talking about you go doubleheader,
the old 1 o'clock start, and then you play 2 games. Yeah,
I can remember the Padres playing the Cardinals, going with my dad, doubleheader, and Daryl Porter
one of the most famous games, or one of the most famous times in Padre history was a doubleheader when Nate Colbert hit 5 home runs and drove in 14 runs in a doubleheader against the Atlanta Braves. Yeah. I remember listening on the radio with my dad to that game.
I remember listening to it.
Yeah,
because it wasn't on TV.
Yeah, no such thing as Padres being on TV then. Yeah,
no.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right, time for predictions, man.
So we got 3 against the Rockies and 3 against the Cubs.
Yeah.
So 6 games. I'll go first. I say 4-2.
Well, I'm stuck in the mud on this one. I'm 4-2, and whether it's a sweep of the Rockies, I just don't. I'm going to get boring from here on in because I think when you talk about 6 games, 4-2 is a very legitimate goal. I don't think that they match up well with the Cubs. The Cubs kind of scare me, quite honestly. They've got a really good.
Plus, there'll be a lot of Cub fans at the game.
They just lost. Well. They did just lose Justin Steele.
Did they?
To the IL? Yeah. But man, that Suzuki and they got Kyle Tucker, who, again, you know, we want everybody on our team, right? But man, I just salivate thinking about Kyle Tucker in left field for us.
I'm hoping the Cubs sign him because I think he's a Dodger if they don't sign him.
I don't know if the Dodgers have got any more room.
I don't know.
I'm being dead serious. I don't know if they've got any more room. Not
financially.
Not financially.
I know, but I'd say they have Pajes in center right now who can't catch a ball, and they have Conforto who's up there in age.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll see. But
who gets his first home loss? Probably. I would hate to say it, but. Hopefully it's the Cubs and not that we sweep the Rockies.
Well, I'm only going to say the Rockies because they get the first 3 shots at it. If it was an alternating going back and forth, I'd probably say the Cubs. But I hope I'm wrong. Again, this is a Rockies team that we should beat, but should beat in baseball. You know, you mentioned Eric. I say the same way. My mantra is just win each series. The great Gary Templeton said that in 1984 when they made their run at the beginning of the season. He said, yeah, our goal is to win every series and not, I think the goal there was win every series, but also not lose more than 4 games in a row. Because he felt like, you know what, if we can hold our losing streaks down to 4 games or less, and they did not lose 4 in a row until the last week of the season when they had already clinched. So, yeah.
You know, I was thinking too about Bud Black. Bud Black's a good guy, you know, but man, that's got to be hard going there. And I mean, he's getting paid well, but still, it's just like, But I think maybe if he takes an approach as a teacher where he's helping these guys, I don't know. I don't know if I could just go there and keep losing. It's like I was looking at
Yeah,
Mark Kotsay.
I think
Mark
it's not just
Kotsay,
the losing. It's not just the losing. It's the you're not giving me anything
right?
to help me out.
Yeah, you have
And
my
boy,
hands.
if you're a manager of a team that's not going to give you anything, you are in the wrong division because this division is just absolutely loaded. There,
Yeah,
uh, and I'm not making excuses for any team, and I hope it's not the Padres, but one of the teams in this division is going to be very disappointed not to make the playoffs because I don't know if there's I know it's possible, but I don't think there's going to be 3 wild card teams coming out of the West. I think we're going to just be beating each other up to the point that somebody, whether it's somebody from the East or the Central is going to sneak in because we just beat each other to a pulp.
it's
A
a
lot of
tough.
people,
It's a tough. Other than the Rockies, it's a tough division.
yeah, exactly. So
I'm
that's
just.
why I
I'm just
think
saying.
that's why it's important for us to beat the Rockies because everybody else is going to beat the Rockies.
Yeah, got to beat them.
Yeah, got to win the games that you should win. But that's what it comes down to. But again, baseball is not built on one game. That's the results. It's built on the whole series or what do you want to call it. We'll play them 13 times. I'll tell you right now, if you can go 8-5 against the Rockies, that's still good. That's still good. Your chances of you're not going to go 13-0. But they're the one team in the division that we should go win at least 8 or 9 of those games. Because when we play the Giants, when we play the D-backs, when we play the Dodgers, 7-6 is perfectly good.
Yeah,
You just got to win this series because we want some tiebreakers. And that's the one thing I will say. The last thing I'll say about the upcoming Cubs series, we lost 2 to them. We really need to win 2 of them to make sure that we're tied with the tiebreaker. Because
we beat the Braves. We beat the Braves
the
4, but the
Braves
Braves are
we've
still,
already
they're
got
still
the
struggling.
Braves. Yeah, we found out how important that was last year. Look at the D-backs. They lost the playoffs because of that.
Yeah.
You got to win those tiebreakers against playoff teams. So I think it's I don't want to say it's crucial, but it would definitely make me feel a lot better if we at least tied it up 3-3. Okay, there's no tiebreaker there. We'll go to whatever the next tiebreaker is. So yeah.
All right.
4-2. Yeah.
We'll be off next week. Thanks. Go ahead.
I was going to say, in case our audience is wondering, Jay and Jack will be in Japan. Are you guys going to go see a baseball game?
They're in town. It's just a matter of we're going to see what we're doing. But yeah, they're there Wednesday and Thursday. So we'll see if they're there. I want to go, but
yeah,
again,
it'd be an experience to see the atmosphere and everything. So for all of our listeners, next week, it's just not my thing. And then the week after, we'll be back with a full contingent. And then the week after that, yours truly and Jack will be watching the Padres in Pittsburgh.
Which is a great city. Jerry's never been there. I've been there a few times, a couple of years in a row. This year, hopefully, there's no smoke.
From the
Canadian
fires.
Canadian wildfires.
I'll be lucky enough to see the Cleveland Guardians against the Minnesota Twins earlier in the week, and then we'll meet together.
Who you rooting for?
I'm rooting for a quick game because to me, it's all about going to the stadium and kind of getting the layout. I love getting there early where we get to kind of view the stadiums. There's some beautiful stadiums out there. I know we're spoiled rotten with Petco, but I loved Cincinnati River, the stadium there, the park outside. It's just beautiful. In St. Louis, the Arch, you can see it out in the outfield.
When you're watching the Reds game on TV, I just admire their seats because they're so beautiful because there's no one sitting in them.
Yeah. Well, we know how that feels. If you're not signing free agents and you feel like that you're kind of getting a little wave of the wand every once in a while to keep you interested, it's kind of hard. But when you get, we've been very lucky the last 10 years, and you get owners that really are going to make this a team and something fun to watch, then you can get excited. But yeah, I don't want to go back. That it's like when you're in financial ruin and you get out of it, you go, I never want to be back there again. I never want to do that. So, but yeah, going and then I get to go to a Padre game on May 12th against the A's. I get to go to the suite.
Oh,
Go to
really?
the suite again.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Oh,
And
it is
Eric's
nice.
going to be at the game Sunday. Hope you enjoy it. Bring
Yeah.
us home a winner. If not, you can't come back into chat. It's win or go home. So.
Win or go home. All
Of
right.
course,
Well,
be
enjoy
honest
your
with you,
trip.
We're not recording next week, so I won't remember that I said that.
Enjoy your trip, Jack. And,
all right.
And say hi to Jay, even though he couldn't be here.
So yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks for Oz and Eric, and there was someone else in the chat.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, yeah, I don't care about her. Let's see. Ocean View Coffee Shop. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, we're out. Let's go
Padres.